George Hambury, president of Nova Southeastern University, and Dr. Simpson's asked me to introduce a gentleman I've known for almost 25 years. He's done a lot of work here at Nova, but he's also been a great friend. We serve on the council of 100 together in the state of Florida, and on several other boards helping the community in Broward County. But I'm not going to go through the history of Bob Moss, because that's what he's here to tell you. And I think you'll find this an interesting one, that if you take all the theory that you've learned here and are continuing to learn at NSU and apply it to practice and add a bunch of enthusiasm, perseverance, and dedication, you'll find a definition of Bob Moss. So, Bob, why don't you begin with your introduction and your history and your multi-billion-dollar business.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hanbury. I'm thrilled to see so many students here, and I hope I can give you a couple of tidbits of wisdom that may be helpful to you as you go out into the business world. I'll try to, and if you see a slide or anything that you think you would like to have at some point in time to reflect on, I'm more than happy to provide that. If you just let us know, we'll be happy to give that to you. So hopefully I can give you a little bit of wisdom about the construction industry. I'm not sure I'm going to try to encourage any of you to go into construction industry right away, because it's a very demanding, low margin, high risk business. But I've only been doing it for 50 years, so I don't think I'm going to change careers. I'm pretty well set in this business for a long time. So what I'm going to do is touch on 4 subjects. Probably some of you are just wondering, what does Moss do? So I'm going to use pictures, which, as you well know, are worth 1,000 words, and I'm going to go through some pictures of the kinds of things that we do quickly, so you have a feel for the kinds of projects that we get involved in. Then I'll give you a quick 50-year recap, where I started, and a little quick line that gets me to tonight. And that will be as quick as I can make 50 years boil down. And then there will be some slides and some information about the business story of Moss. I'll tell you that the company officially started in August the 13th, 2004. And in 2017, we were the largest construction company in the state of Florida. So that is not easy to duplicate, and there's some really, really important, complicated circumstances that were very helpful. First off, the market was very good. You have to have a good market, and you have to have people who have money to build buildings if you want to be successful in the business. So we had that for a while, and then it went away for a while, and then now it's back again. So you'll see that in graphic form and picture form. Several of us who had worked for a large publicly traded company that I worked with almost 25 years wanted to start a new company that was light on bureaucracy, but heavy on hustle and heart and determination. And so that was some of the core foundations of what we were looking for in starting this company. My wife Sandra is here. We've been married for 48 years, almost 49 this year. And she deserves a lot of credit for supporting me through some of the unusual moves and things we did, which you'll hear a little more about. And she also deserves a lot of credit for being a good mother for 2 of the executive officers in our company, Scott and Chad, our sons. And both are very active in the company and both doing a really good job. Some people occasionally even say she raised 3 children since we got married so young. I'm not sure I'm going to admit to that. There's probably a lot of truth to it, though. So I'm thankful for both of my sons, and I'm even more thankful for the outstanding employees that I had worked with for 20-something years in a very large, successful public company that left the security of that company to come to work basically for me and my son at the time. And there's some other interesting stories that will connect to how we started this company, and you'll hear about those. Construction management or construction is a service business. In other words, we have to serve our clients just like so many other industries do. And it is more complicated to serve in the construction industry. A lot of moving parts, a lot of engineering, a lot of complicated projects. So, it is a people business though. People say construction, you don't think about people. But people work for people. You may hear me say that more than once in this presentation. And I can tell you that is clearly people work for people, and that's why a lot of people left the security of a big company to join a very small startup company in 2004. And a lot of success, a huge part of the success of our business is because great people I'd worked with before made the decision to follow me to start a new company. We communicate our values on every job, and we actually have a little card that we can that I'll share with you. We make it a high priority to be good neighbors. You probably know construction is a dirty business, noisy business, disruptive, and it's dangerous, extremely dangerous. We start every meeting with safety in our company, and we remind everybody how easy it is to get hurt in the construction business. So we try to be good neighbors. Sometimes it's difficult, working in downtown properties, having to cut up the street to connect the water lines and sewer lines and all those things. But we try to do the best we can to keep the streets clean and to keep traffic moving and not interrupt businesses and have a personal relationship with every close neighbor. So we tell them what we're doing, and so we try to be good neighbors in that way. But we also try to be good neighbors in the community and the things that we support in the community. You'll hear a little more about that as well. So let me start with the kinds of things that we do. And I'm going to just flip through these, and I'll make a few comments as I do. That's a project under construction out on the beach. You'll see a better view of that shortly. This is the Marlins Ballpark, a $380 million project completed a few years ago, ahead of schedule and on budget. Very successful project. I hope some of you have been there to see a game. If you haven't, I would encourage you to do so. It's a retractable roof, and that glass wall in center field opens up to the view of the city of Miami. So it's really a spectacular facility. This is a senior housing village up northwest of town that just completed. This is an interesting project, the Bright Line train stations that we did in West Palm and in Fort Lauderdale. It's an interesting story about relationships. The relationships are so huge in our business. The guy that got hired by Brightline to be in charge of design and construction, I met in 1986 building hotels at Disney World with him. He was a project manager for Disney. We had an outstanding relationship, very successful project after project after project. As soon as he moved from Denver to Miami to take over design and construction, he found out I had a business, called me, he said, I want to come see you. He said, hey, I got to build this and this and this. Can you build these projects for me? Because we had a great success before, and I know I can trust you, and I can worry about other things. So at the time, we had just started 4 large high-rise projects in downtown Miami, and I said, well, we can't take on the Miami job, but we'll do Fort Lauderdale, and we'll do West Palm, which we did. And this is a picture of the Fort Lauderdale station. They completed ahead of schedule. We had a great relationship. So that's the kind of relationships that are so influential in our business that we, thank goodness, myself and our management team have many, many of those relationships. This is the first thing you see now when you come up the ramp to Fort Lauderdale Airport. This is a new wing. That's Southwest Airlines new wing that goes north and south, and this big rotunda is the first thing you see when you come up to get on the plane. Beautiful new, in fact, here's an interior picture of the terminal. That job was a very large job as well. Now this is a very interesting shot. Terminal 25 is the low part of that. Terminal 25 is 1,800 feet long. It's on the site of the old Bert and Jack's restaurant. Many of the folks are very familiar with that. and that is the new ship called the Edge. And that red thing you see on the side is a big platform and a bar that goes up and down, all the way up and down the ship, so you can sit out there and enjoy the cruise. This is for their high-end cruise, or high income, I guess you would say, cruise passengers. So and it is really spectacular. So they're trying to attract the people that can pay more for a cruise. This is Icon Las Olas, up until now the tallest building in town. I'm told that one of the ones under construction is going to be a little bit taller, but it's right by the tunnel. It's a beautiful, it turned out to be a high-end rental, but it was built as a condo, and someday may return to that, but right now it's a pretty attractive building. This is a project that we have finishing up right now on the Fort Lauderdale beach. That's the picture, the first picture that you saw under construction. This picture is taken from the beach looking back. You have two buildings involved. The one on the right has 52 units in it. The one on the left has 110 or a little less. Some people are combining units. And then the connecting piece in the middle looks like a big fishbowl. It's an all glass bubble. So it is the highest end residential project in Fort Lauderdale, Broward County. Now this is a real switch from a high-end condo to a solar project. We coincidentally, and this is a quick little story I'll tell you, got involved in building solar projects 7 years ago. A guy worked for us that had a lot of experience in the power business, and he was looking for a job. He was in Texas. He wanted to come to Florida to retire. So he said, would you guys let me come and help you for a couple of years? He was a friend of one of our top guys, and we said, sure. So he came and helped my youngest son build a Bass Pro Shop that's on Griffin Road. He eventually got a job with FP&L. We don't hear from him for a couple of years. He calls and says, hey, I need your help. We said, what do you want us to do? He said, well, we're building a solar farm on the west coast of Florida, and the people we hired don't have a clue on how to do it, and we need some people who know how to do it. And we said, well, we will be happy to try to help you, but we've never built a solar farm. He said, I don't care. You people understand logics, you understand organization, and how to get things done. Just come and help me. So we sent about 5 people over there, took over the job, got it finished very successfully. Before we finished that one, then we get another phone call. We have a 700-acre solar farm in Manatee County. We had the same problem. We hired somebody from Phoenix who's supposed to know how to do it, and this one was very complicated. Can you come help us again? So we did it again. So finally we said, well, maybe we should start building solar farms. It's not that hard. Now we're the largest solar farm contractor in the state of Florida. We just agreed to sign 20 new projects in the state of Florida in the last 2 weeks, which has been a marvelous boost for our company. But that one happens to be in Oahu, in the Hawaiian Islands. And that one's 500 acres, and we just did 3 more that are 400 to 700 acres. So that's interesting business that we got into by chance. We also are into military housing business out of our Dallas operation. We're also into HUD housing. That particular one is in Texas. We're also into hotel construction. We have built, probably in 50 years, been involved in building more hotels than anybody in the state of Florida. And I think about 60% of everything we build has bathrooms and kitchens. Now, most prisons only have one big kitchen. There's no kitchens in the room, but there's bathrooms and toilets in the room. So we're doing a lot of prisons, and we do 2 things all over the country. We do corrections work and we do solar work anywhere in the country. We probably built in 15 states plus the islands solar, and we've probably built prisons in 12 to 15 states as well. So we travel around doing those 2 specialties. This is a very interesting project. Many of you have been to the Dolphin Stadium. This year, the tennis facility that used to be at Key Biscayne is moving to the Dolphin facility. There's a new big jumbotron. I don't have a pointer. We added a new jumbotron right up this alleyway. You see, it looks like a baseball player or something there. And 31 tennis courts outside. One will be a permanent court, which is this one here in the middle. But the main court is on the 50-yard line inside the stadium, on the shady side of the stadium. And the reason that they put a jumbotron outside is if you're out here watching people practice or watching some of the other games on this court, you can see what's going on in the main court inside. It's going to be spectacular. If you look at all of this area, this is all the landscaping and the plaza. It's really, I was there yesterday, and we were finishing up adding the court at the 50-yard line, and it's going to be a spectacular place to watch tennis. There's plenty of parking. It's a big change from going to Key Biscayne, I can assure you. This is, last but not least. George, were you sitting wondering if I was going to show you the Nova job? So anyhow, this is a terrific project. I mean, from the time we started this project, this is the most diverse project. You can do so many things all the time in this building. It's actually a wonderful design and a wonderful project. I'm sure that all of you athletes who have visiting athletes come here and see that facility, they have to be quite envious of that facility. Then we added a performing arts facility on the other end of it. And we had the privilege of doing the Commons dorm with Dick Dodge. And we had the privilege of building Dick Dodge's home at Nova Oceanographic. And I'm sure there are plenty of other schools that are quite envious of the location in that building as well. In that particular building, we were something a little different. We were the design builder. So the design team reported to us as well as the construction execution team. And we had the privilege of working with lab designers and coordinate with Dick Dodge and his lab technicians to make sure that everybody got exactly what they were looking for in that building. Oh, and a project that we have under construction right now in the Clearwater, St. Pete area is the Dr. Patel College of Osteopathic Medicine. We were there a few weeks ago. We had the topping out ceremony, and the job is going well. It's another beautiful site on Tampa Bay there, and just right across the bridge from Tampa in Clearwater. So that gives you a little visual picture of what we do. So now we will go into the next phase of the discussion, which is I'm going to try to recap 50 years very quickly. I started in North Carolina. People always say, well, how did you get interested in the construction business? What'd I do? I'll let you get us back fired up again. Well, anyhow, you'll work on that. So they asked how you get interested in the construction business. My father had a little bitty construction business doing home improvement. And when I was 13 and 14, 15 years old, I used to go to work in the summer and first off, start out just cleaning and keeping the job clean, and pretty soon doing a little bit more and a little bit more, and got where I was halfway decent at doing some skill work. And so I enjoyed it. Unfortunately, my father passed away right when I turned 16, so that changed that direction for me. And so then I started working to help my mother with bills and stuff, and worked through high school and college and got a building construction degree. Sometimes luck plays a big part. Luck and timing plays a big part in your success and your role in life. So I decided, okay, I'm going to go apply now for a construction company. The biggest construction company in the city of Charlotte was J.A. Jones Construction Company, and they had the best reputation. So I said, well, why not start there? I go in, sitting in the HR office, filled out an application, and the vice president of HR walked through and said, what are you doing, young man? I said, well, I'm filling out an application. I want to go to work for the company. He said, I'm not doing anything. Come in here, I'll talk to you for a little bit. So I went in. We had a great chat. I guess he liked the fact that I'd worked through school and through high school. And so he said, well, we get ready to start a big shopping center. Go down here and talk to these guys that's going to run that job. So I go down, had a good dialogue with those guys. He sent me back to him. They said, okay, when can you come to work? I said, well, I have a great part-time job, as I told you, but they know I'm going to quit as soon as I have a chance to get in construction. And so he said, how about Monday? And this was a Wednesday. I said, I'll be there Monday. So I worked for that company for 11 years. They were a big company, worldwide construction company. So we built the shopping center. Then I got transferred to Charlotte to another job. We built a newspaper printing facility. And then a surprise occurred. They came to me and said, we have a project in Ponce, Puerto Rico. Will you go to Ponce, Puerto Rico as a project manager? Who's a Puerto Rican in here? You're from Ponce. Woo! So I have a question for you. Have you been since the hurricane?
Yeah.
Did the Parque de Bamba get destroyed?
No, it's still there.
Awesome. It's an old fire station right downtown Ponce, and we went there. So here, Sandra and I are in our early 20s. We have a 6-month-old baby. Sandra has never been on an airplane. I've been on one airplane in my life. I flew from Charlotte to Atlanta, Atlanta back to Charlotte. And so somehow I talked her into doing it. And she was not particularly happy there. We moved into a Puerto Rican neighborhood. Neither one of us could speak any Spanish at all. And we had a 6-month-old baby. So we pack up 10 suitcases, a black and white TV, and a playpen, and away we go to Ponce, Puerto Rico. Let me tell you, that was, I don't know what you would call it, foolish, but it was, what the heck, we're young, it's adventurous, let's go do it. So we stayed down there 13 months and built the job successfully. And then we moved back to Charlotte. She got pregnant with our second son. Then I went to Pennsylvania, started a big brewery, and then after that, started a big tire plant in Danville, Virginia, then a cement plant in Harleyville, South Carolina. I was working in and out of Charlotte. She was there with her family, pregnant. Is that me? It's not me. Who's ringing? So is that you, honey? I'm glad. I thought I turned mine off. So anyhow, then we got a big job in Pensacola, Florida, to build a big paper mill, a 3-year project. We never bought a house, so I bought the house. Sandra had never even seen it. She was home having the baby. Moved us in. A very expensive home, $27,500, 1973. She still complains about the small kitchen, and I don't blame her. But anyhow, we survived it and built a paper mill. And then from there, the same company had a big presence in Washington State building projects for the nuclear industry. If any of you ever heard of the Hanford Reservation, that's where the plutonium that came out of a reactor that went to Los Alamos to build the bombs that they dropped on Japan. So it's a big nuclear reservation, very complicated projects, all kind of research laboratories and maintenance on nuclear plants. So we stayed there for 3 years. We could have stayed our whole career there, but I said, no, 3 years is enough. I want to go do something else. So went to Denver, building hotels in Denver and office buildings in Denver and office buildings in Arizona and Minneapolis and several places. So then I was walking down the street one day in Denver from one of our jobs going somewhere, and all of a sudden I see a guy that I'd worked with at J.A. Jones for many years. He had gone to Saudi Arabia running a big construction company and had been over there several years, so I hadn't seen him. So we bump into each other and start talking. He said, let's have lunch together. So we had lunch. He said, look, I just came back. I've taken over a company in Nashville, Tennessee. I need you to come help me. And I said, well, I haven't been here that long, but you know, and I'm enjoying it. You know, we liked snow skiing at the time. We had a beautiful home. In fact, we bought 2 homes when we went to Denver, and one to rent and one to live in. And I did all kind of work, built fences and put in sprinkler systems and everything else. So I said, let me think about it. And he said, look, I don't have time for you to think about it. I'm going to make you such a good deal, you're going to have to come. You're going to be executive vice president. We're going to give you all this stuff. I said, well, you're making it hard. So we accepted the job. We moved to Nashville, Tennessee. We were there for 6 years with that company. After a couple of years, I got a little disenchanted with the ownership, and I was fortunate enough to get Syntex to buy that company. And I worked with Syntex from 83 to 2003, 20-something years. They had bought it. So about after being with Syntex a couple of years, they had bought a company in Florida called Rooney, one of the oldest construction companies. A name anybody from that's been here very long in real estate and construction know that name. And so they said, we'd like for you to go. They had bought that company in 1984. This was 86. So we'd like for you to go take over that company because we're not pleased with the person who's running it, and we want to make a change. Now, I like Florida, I like boating, so that was a pretty easy sell. So I moved down here, and actually July 4th, 1986, I was 39 years old. It was a wonderful opportunity at that time. It was following somebody who had a tough reputation in the industry, and they were focused on nothing but hard bid work. Now I don't have time to explain all that. That's a whole different field of, anyhow, basically government hard bid work, and it's a tough industry if that's your focus. So we decided to take the job. Best thing that ever happened to me. Again, major lucky move. But for the students' benefit, let me just sort of reflect a little bit on what all I have said. Now, I could have said in Charlotte, North Carolina, all this time, that I've gone through this whole number of years and never moved. Do I think I would have been anywhere near as successful if I had made that choice? Absolutely not. So, when opportunity knocks, you have to be willing. It could be with the same company. Many times it is with the same company where you have a chance to advance, take on new responsibilities, meet new people, new opportunities, develop a new list of great people who are going to be willing to help you throughout your entire career. Another key point I would say, to never make enemies. I promise you, the same person will show up again and again. And sometimes, when things are difficult, the desire is to lose it and really tell somebody how you feel and what you think about them. Don't do it. Bite your tongue. Bite your tongue. Remember, what goes around comes around. And that person may be hiring you for the next job that you want 10 years from now. So, and that's a hard thing to do. And I made that mistake a couple of times in my career, and I remember every one of them, and it was foolish and immature. So don't do that. So learn from that one. So, so where am I? So we moved to Fort Lauderdale, and it was a great opportunity because we had a chance to turn around what was a great company. I remember the first month, all I did was go to jobs and meet people. And I'd come home and tell Sandra, I said, we made the best decision of our life. Why do you say that? This company has a terrible reputation. I said, because they have wonderful people. And with wonderful people, you can do magical things in the construction business. And so that's exactly what happened. We turned the company around very quickly. I remember one of Tom and my good friends that was in construction, we were at the CASF deal after I'd been here about 6 months. He said, are you crazy? I said, why? That company has a terrible reputation. I said, to me, that's the best gift possible. All I have to do is show up and be a nice guy, and I can turn that around pretty quickly. So, following somebody who's really good is very difficult. Following somebody who's maybe not so good and not so nice to people and is a much easier job, and that was an easier job that I had, thank goodness. So we turned the company around, and I ran Florida. We were the largest contractor in Florida. We had 7 offices after a few years, and then they asked me to run the national construction business. They asked me a couple times. And they had big office in Dallas, Washington, D.C., Memphis, Nashville, and the companies that we had in Fort Lauderdale. But they were based in Dallas. So I said, well, our kids were out of college then, and I talked to Sandra and I said, let's do it for a few years because they've been really good to us. So I agreed to run the national construction business, which was a $1.8 billion, $200 billion construction company. And I said, but I'm not moving to Texas and I'm not flying commercially. So if you want me to do it, those are my 2 conditions. So I flew around a lot in a plane to a lot of different project sites for 5 years. And it was a very rewarding, successful experience. Had a lot of wonderful people in all the divisions and all the companies to work with. And from there, in 2003, I decided to leave after doing that job 5 years and start a company with my 2 sons, who you'll see pictured in a minute. One just arrived. The oldest one, he arrived a while ago. His brother is at Harvard. We hope getting a little smarter. He's getting his master's. And so at least he's there doing something. So if you're ready to start a company, and I met some of you in the business program, and the goals are going to be to start a company in a year or 2 as part of the master's program. So a simple thing, what are you going to name your company? Not everybody names the company their last name. So that was something to think about. But I felt that we had a good name in the construction industry after being in Florida for 20 years. And so we decided that that was the right thing to do, and I'm happy that we did. I know the definition of entrepreneurship, and my definition is you're willing to take risk, and sometimes big risk for big opportunities. And you have to have the courage, but courage is one thing. That only gets you part of the way. You have to have the knowledge and the financial ability to pull it off. Don't try to start too quick with no money. That is a tough road. So you have to have some really important fundamentals to be able to do that. Our own company, and starting this company, which is a gigantic company now, we started with our own money. We didn't borrow money from anybody. And we were fortunate that we got jobs very soon after starting the company. There's a connection there I'll make shortly. There's one aspect of the construction industry that most of you won't understand because you haven't been there. And that is every bank that loans money wants to see what's called a payment and a performance bond insured by large companies like ours, Travelers, which is the largest bonding company in the world. So to go to them and convince them to write bonds on your company where they're going to guarantee that you're going to pay the people who work for you, that's the subcontractors, everybody, and that you're going to finish that job on time that you told that client that you would finish on time. If you don't, they have to step in and take it over and finish it. So they're looking for a lot of things when they make the decision to take that risk on a new company. Now, a couple of best things were going for me is I had worked with them for 25 years at Syntex, or 23 years, and we never cost them a penny. So they never had anything but good experiences, good track record. So I remember exactly where I was standing when I got a call from the top guy at Travelers. He said, "Bob, I heard you leaving Syntex and starting your own company." I said, "Yes, sir, I sure am." And he said, "I want you to know one thing. When you want bonding, all you have to do is make one phone call." Let me tell you, that was a very, very important phone call. Without bonding in the construction business, you are a small contractor, and you are relegated to small contractor until you prove yourself and develop that kind of relationship with an important company like Travelers. So I don't expect you guys to fully comprehend that, the students especially. So just a quick note on that. Now, sometimes when you start, you need help. So there's a smiling gentleman there. You used to have a little darker hair, Tommy. So we had 2 employees, myself and my youngest son, and we had to start a job immediately. So I hadn't even been gone long enough to get our licenses and get insurance and get permits and get all the things that we needed to start this job. So I had a good friend, Tommy. He and his brother have been in business for quite a few years. How many years have you been in business in 1986? In 2004. So they've been in business 30-something years. Had a very successful family company. They still have that company. So I went to him and I said, "Look, I have to build this job on Los Olos Boulevard. It's starting right away. I have myself and my son and 1 superintendent, but we have absolutely no back-of-house support. We need a lot of things. So can we kind of form a joint venture company? You help me with the back-of-house stuff, and I have the people to build the job." So thank goodness we had a trusting relationship, and he did that. Thank you again. That was in 2003. So that was successful, and then coincidentally he had some relationship with Nova, and then we were able to negotiate the big student activity center with Nova and a joint venture company that we own, Moss Miller, and later on built all the Nova jobs that you saw up there as a joint venture, which we both benefited from and have had a great relationship with, and we hope we will do more projects for Nova and other people, and we have worked a few projects with other people as well. So a lesson there, I don't know what kind of business you may start someday, but if you know somebody who is in a business that you want to start, that you can develop a relationship with. Most people that you meet want to be helpful to young people. They want to help you succeed. And so if you can create a situation like that, that's a good way more secure way to start a company. You get to learn from that company, and they help you to succeed, and you succeed together. So that's another little idea if you go on to your entrepreneurship. Now, this is our company today. We've been in that building about 10 years. We only owned a couple of floors when we first moved there, but we've now bought out all of the other tenants and own the floor and have improved the building substantially. It's on Andrews Avenue. That's one of our offices, and you'll see later where we have other offices. So this is the whole Moss family. This is a meeting we had at Harbor Beach Marriott. Every year we bring about 200 to 300 of our top employees from all over the country, and we meet and we talk about training, we talk about safety, we talk about how do we improve certain things that are going on in the company. We talk about mistakes that we might have made that we can learn from together, and then we just have a good time together. As you can see, we're doing there. Chad is here, he's on the right, and that's his brother Scott that's hopefully getting smarter at Harvard. So then another subject comes up, and Chad will remember this meeting. I was meeting with a very smart accounting and a very smart tax attorney, and both sons were with me, and this is in 2004, sometime a little before August, and they said to me, okay, what is your long-range goal in starting this company? Now, my long-range goal was to create a great opportunity for my two sons to have a business with our name on it that would have a lasting legacy, and hopefully some of their children might even enter the business in years to come. So they said, well, the company's worth nothing now. If your goal is for them to be owners of the company, why don't you make them owners now when the company's worth nothing? And then later on, that will always already be transferred, and that's a good long-range estate planning technique. So I took Ray Rodriguez's advice, and what's Bill's last? Our tax guy, Snyder. Bill Snyder's advice, and that's what we did. Two really smart people. Another good point. Seek good advice if you're starting a company. Good tax advice and good planning advice, and that's what we did, and we did get good advice, thank goodness. So the three of us work in the company every day, and we all have various things that we do, and we have a lot of other wonderful people in the 600 employees that work with us that really, really make a big difference each and every day. So this is an interesting graph. Here's when we started, August of this year. So that 30 million was the revenue that we completed in the whole year of 2004. A little bit from what Tom and I were doing on the job on Las Olas and starting a couple of new jobs. We started the student center later that year. But then the market was really good. And between August and December, I heard about 75 of the best people that I had worked with in my previous life. That is hugely impactful because I didn't have to worry about how they would perform. I didn't have to worry about their capabilities. I had worked with them 10 and 20 years. So when you're able to attract somebody that has that kind of talent, that you trust that much, it is a giant step in starting a company. So you can see what happened. The market was good, and next year we did $300 million. That's bigger than most construction companies in the state. And the next year, 600, and then 648. So we were off to a very fast start very quickly. It was sort of like the perfect storm. We had a lot of great things aligned for us to help us be successful very quickly. But then guess what happened in 2008 and 9? The world went south. And so we had to endure a very difficult time frame. We had to lay off a lot of good employees, which is always painful, heartbreaking. When you bring somebody to work for you, you need to look at it. You're bringing them to work for you for their entire career, and you need to work to keep them occupied, gainfully employed, create promotional opportunities, etc. So we had to go through that period. We had been awarded over $1 billion worth of work, and the money went away for all those jobs, so all those opportunities went away. So 8, 9, 10 were challenging years, but we survived. We made it through it, made a little bit of money, and were able to keep people. We did not lay one key person off. No A players left, so we still had the brain power to grow quickly again. And then in 2011, things take off again. So 2011, you can see things improved. 2012 improved more. 2013 and 14 improved again. In 2012, we actually acquired a company in Tampa. This turned out to be a very, very good acquisition for us. And in 2014, we acquired a partner. This turned out to be one of the best partners ever. And they are a client, a partner, and a company that keeps creating opportunities for us. So you can see now we're running north of $1 billion in revenues. And 19 says $1.2 billion, but I can tell you based on a lot of success we've had in the last 45 days, it's probably closer to $1.5 billion. So what's the order of magnitude? We typically have 50 to 70 projects going at one time. 70 will be probably the number in 19. So that's a lot of things to watch, and the average size job is somewhere in the $68 to $70 million range. So if you do the math, that's about $5 billion worth of active construction. Where do we work? There's the locations that we have offices right now. And the San Diego office is a unique office. It's at Camp Pendleton. You saw a picture of that earlier. We have a continuing contract there that we're servicing the military and occasionally build new military housing there. Sacramento is an engineering office for a corrections group. And in Honolulu, we build a little bit of everything, in El Paso and Dallas and, of course, Florida. So there's just some bullet points. You'll see a minute the Fortune magazine evaluation, engineering news record, safety rating, better than the industry average. It is a huge financial benefit to run safe jobs, and it's a huge reputation benefit. These utility companies that we work for are notorious. If you have a bad safety record, you do not build solar farms for utility companies. In 2017, we're ranked as the #1 contractor in Florida, and we're number 71 of the top 400 contractors in the nation. This is a slide that we put together. Isaac showed me this the other day. I never had seen it. These are the kinds of projects we've done and the number of projects that we have done since we started the company in 2004. It's a pretty impressive list of the number of projects. The solar, what we just signed recently, is twice as much as we have done in the last 6 years. So we're going to be very busy building solar all over the state of Florida, plus a couple other states. So we're really excited about that opportunity. Our culture is really important. We hammer culture. We hammer that we're a family company. We hammer that we want to treat people like we want to be treated. And we are very insistent about that. When we started the company, this is something I did at the other company that I worked at for many years. First 100 employees, we got together, we had a meeting. We said, okay, what's the key things to running a successful construction company? And you can read them right there. Team member conduct, safety, communication, cost control, risk management, project leadership. So I won't read them all, but those are the key things. If you own a construction company and everybody in your company behaves like this, I can assure you, you will have a very successful construction company. So I wanted to do that with the top first 100 employees. I want them all to agree. I want them to agree that's the way we're going to behave. And I'm hopeful that we don't have to talk about those kind of things on a day-to-day basis. I'm hopeful that our people are responsible enough to understand these things and do them each and every day. And so that has been sort of our marching orders ever since we started the company. And then about 2 years ago, my youngest son said, we need something much simpler. We can't introduce ourselves with that long list of non-negotiable standards, and I agree with it. So we put together a group of 20 people, various positions in the company, and we had an outside facilitator who had done things like this. So we said, let's boil it down into the really, really important stuff. And we probably had 6 meetings all afternoon, and finally come up with what we all bought into. And you can read it. Create an exceptional honor relationships, that's huge with us. Entrepreneurial spirit, huge. And energy is important in any business that you want to be successful. So that's what we boiled it down to, and that's the way that we describe ourselves to people now when they say, okay, tell us about boss, tell us about how you behave, tell us what's important to you, and that's what's important to us. So this is something that we feel really good about. Because we moved beyond Florida, we don't just go for the Florida evaluation, we go for Fortune magazine. That's a national rating agency. You can see that our turnover is lower than the industry average. I'd like for it to even be lower than that. And then this is how our employees graded the key aspects of the company, and everything is graded above 90%. And we feel real good about that. We didn't pay people more to put down a high number. That's how they feel about working for us, and I feel really blessed that that's the way we're conducting ourselves, and that's the way people feel about working for us. We're also very, very committed to the community that we work in and live in. My son Chad is head of the Moss Foundation. He's extremely involved with FIU. He's on the board there. He's also extremely involved in supporting these organizations here in the community. And he's here to answer any questions you guys might have about that. So with that, if there's questions, I'll be happy to entertain them. Any question you want to ask. Thank you. Oh, one thing I forgot to tell the students. There's one important book you need to read and keep and highlight. I have my highlighted one, and I probably had it for 15 years. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Executives by Stephen Covey. It's fantastic. It's simple stuff, straightforward stuff, but you can understand it. And if you live those 7 habits, that will help you achieve the success that you're looking for after graduating from Nova University as well. So, does anybody have questions?
Hi there, Mr. Moss. My name is Gabriel. I'm part of the Razor's Edge Sharkgate Scholarship. And I wanted to go back to what you were talking about earlier about the courage. As you saw me earlier, you asked me about my shirt, Metal Designs. That is my family's construction company. We've been out there for about 3 years. We're a subcontractor. We do metal wall panel systems. And so one of my first jobs that I remember doing when I was 16 years old, I'm 19 now, I was working at Purdue University in the new football complex. And it was our first big year. We had national jobs. We thought, we were doing a lot, but, in the back of my head, I always thought, maybe I should tell my uncle, hey, we should slow down a little bit. And so I noticed was, how far does common sense take you, not just in making decisions, like how you moved your family all over the country, all over the Western world, but as well as with taking different projects. What can you kind of say on that?
Well, my wife would say there wasn't any common sense at all involved in those moves. But I would say to you that I was ambitious, and I wanted to succeed and do as well as I could to support my family. And the opportunities were clear, concise. They had financial rewards and career rewards. So, and I had enough confidence in my experience that I believed absolutely that I could do the job. And so I took my nice wife into moving and doing it. So, courage is one thing, but you need to evaluate, do you have the ability to do what somebody's asking you to do? So that's a very important part of that question. And do I think I always was prepared for the jobs that I took on? No, but I felt like I could get prepared once I got there and meet the people, and I knew that people, if you have the right attitude, want to help you be successful. So that's one part of that question. What was the second part of the question?
When it came to the common sense of deciding what projects to take, how did you make those decisions to tell this, for example, this beautiful building right here? If you had a smaller job, how would you make those decisions to invest all of your time?
First thing you have to evaluate is the client who is asking you to do the job, can you trust them? Are they honest, and do they have the money to pay you? Working and not getting paid is not a good thing. And have we fired some clients? Yes, we have. So we haven't always figured that out correctly. We've worked for some people that we choose not to work for anymore because we now have experience that whatever they say you can't trust. And so if you can't trust them and they don't want you to be successful with them, they want to take advantage of you, we don't want to work for them. And so we haven't always been brilliant on that, I can tell you that. But our batting average is pretty good.
And my last question is, when it comes to trust, outside of trust, when it comes to relationships, how important is it to maintain business relationships as well as, let me restate that question, how well is it to emphasize the importance of taking care of relationships outside of work?
Most valuable commodity ever in business. People, greatest thing in the world when people call me and say, hey, if somebody wants to build a building, why don't you go talk to them? That's an unpaid salesman, and they trust us, so they want to connect a friend that wants to build something with us because they think they can trust us. Extremely valuable. I actually have a list called the Nifty 50, which are 50 people that I know that I can depend on to be a great reference, to do anything they can to help us be successful.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
How did you navigate the recession when it comes to 2008 and that downturn in the market? I understand that from a residential compared to a commercial market, it tends to be the second shoe that drops after the fact, but how do you see that play a role in the construction industry related to your business?
I've seen that. I've seen two recessions since I moved here in 1986. The early one was in 1991-92. It was not anywhere near as bad as this one. And I remember that when we didn't get a job for one whole year. We didn't get a new job. So what happens? You have jobs finishing. You have people that you can't afford to keep on the payroll, so you have to lay them off. It's very hard to react quick enough. And you don't want to react quick enough in laying off people. There's a human element there that you want to be professional and as nice and considerate as you can. The person's worked for you, you've done a good job. And then you haven't done your job because you haven't created opportunities. Now, the market took away the opportunity, so you can't completely beat yourself up over it. So you got to just try to be as good as you can. Try and pay them severance. Try to get them connected to somebody can maybe hire them. Get somebody else that's doing a little better to hire them. But it's very difficult. Now, in that particular recession, we were lucky because we were building the Marlins Ballpark. We were building a casino. Big casino for the Indians out in Coconut Creek, and we were doing a very unusual thing called replacing Chinese drywall in about 4,000 homes in 5 states. Something we never thought we would do. Guy knocked on the door and wanted to talk to us, and I would have never even thought about doing that, but we were needing work. Turned out to be a wonderful opportunity. We did about $450 million worth of home repair in 5 states, and it kept a lot of people busy, and it was very profitable. So we had a couple of fortunate circumstances that helped us through it. But it's tough. It's very tough. In a way, for my son's benefit, 2 sons' benefit, and all of our leadership team, it's probably good that it happened because they've now seen the worst downturn that I have seen in 50 years. And they figured out how to get through it and survive. And not every construction company did. So I don't know if that answers your question. There's no...
It does. Thank you.
It's brutal. I can tell you that.
Thank you.
Yeah, just stand up and ask it.
Okay.
We'll hear you.
I know it's a little bit different of a market, but back up in Wisconsin, I'm from the Midwest, there's a lot of issues where they have a lot of open jobs, but not really the people to fill them, as in, like, they don't have the trade certifications or different things, because my father's within the truck maintenance and service industry, and they're having problems having people who can pass drug tests, have the right certifications, different things. I don't know how that applies to the construction business, or if you hire the construction workers, you use staffing, but how big of an issue is that either in South Florida or nationally for staffing projects with different workers who can meet these requirements?
It's a gigantic challenge in Florida right now. I have never seen the industry this robust. Our company's going to do more than we've ever done. Tom's business is probably having the largest year you've ever had, and you've been in business 40 years. So the industry is extremely robust. So what complication happens from that? The complication is both of us hire a lot of subcontractors. Do electrical, do drywall, do ceilings. And so these are specialty contractors. So most of the air conditioning guys. So those guys are being challenged big time to find enough skilled crafts to execute the work that they would like to do. And they all want to grow. The only way they can grow is deliver on what they've signed up to do and have enough good people to be able to deliver. One of them is sitting here right now, big one. He can tell you firsthand what it's like in the air conditioning and piping business. But I can tell you, when things are really good, since 1986, we saw more subcontractor problems in the last 2 years than I have seen in the entire 30 plus years I've been in this marketplace. They try to do too much. They work for contractors who didn't have competent leadership to build the jobs on time. So they got in trouble financially and they weren't getting paid. So they lost their businesses. I'm seeing businesses 25, 30 years old. Etna Drywall. He worked for a contractor who didn't have competent people on the job. The schedule was behind. The owner wasn't paying him. And, he has to pay payroll every week, and he has to buy the material to do the job. What would you say about manpower now, Chip?
It's the thinnest it's been ever in the industry. It's hard to find workers who want to get into the trades. The tradesmen are excellent, but they're growing older, and so it's difficult to find. And so you got to pick your partner who you want to build with. And so I pick you.
Well, thank you. And we pick you guys often too. So who wants to get in construction business after hearing all this?
How you doing? Brandon Williams, MBA candidate, first year, real estate concentration. Could you talk a little bit about you asked who wants to get into real estate. As I mentioned, my name is Brandon Williams, and I am concentration in real estate. But could you talk about the value in what Would you mind talking about the value in what we're learning in the classroom as far as real estate development goes, the difference between what we're learning for leadership and learning for being a specialist? You yourself, you spent some time in undergrad and you went to Piedmont College and you spent your time in North Carolina. For myself, I did an undergrad, and now they're saying that a master's is the new bachelor's. At what point will what we're learning in the classroom, getting these degrees, will transfer into those leadership roles and those opportunities that will present themselves in the construction business specifically?
Well, clearly I had some wonderful professors in the small college that I went to that were very helpful and encouraging. I can't speak specifically to the curriculum that you've taken because I haven't sat in the classes. I'm hoping that, I know I spoke at the master's program a couple times here in years past. And so I think hearing from people who are out there in the business, doing it every day, is very beneficial. I think every student that has a chance to work in the field that they desire should do summer co-op programs. That is very helpful to the student, and it's very helpful to the employee who is considering the students. We do a lot of summer co-op programs. We look at it as a 3-month interview. We find out exactly how you're going to behave. We find out if you're going to adhere to the non-negotiable standards and do the simple things that it takes to be successful in the business. We hire for attitude, and we teach the rest. Not saying people don't come out of college with a good fundamental in a lot of things, but I can't speak to how your curriculum is going to connect to where you go with your next move. But you're learning how to learn, and if you have the right attitude, and you get in a business that you like, and you treat the people that you're working with respect, and say, I don't know, can you help me, quite often, you'll be fine.
So, follow-up question. I'd like to speak on behalf of our program. I think we have the best real estate MBA program in the nation. Which is part of the reason why I chose to be a part of this program. But just like your sons and your relationships between having gone to FIU and building with FIU, your other son having gone to University of Florida and doing donations and building with University of Florida, I do believe in the value of networking, and just like you mentioned, it takes that opportunity to learn, network, be in position, and then take on those opportunities. So I'd like to ask for your email so I can see
Come to work for us this summer.
Thank you very much.
Huh? You know, we should recruit more accounting and real estate majors here at Nova, and so we need to work harder on that. And I know that the programs here are very good. It's a fantastic university, and so it doesn't surprise me you feel good about what you're learning.
And we have some phenomenal internship programs, right, that we could offer in every one of the areas you're talking about, Bob. So, students and faculty, Bob talked about luck, that he's been lucky.
Yeah.
Well, my definition of luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So, when you see the opportunity, if you don't have that preparation, if you don't have that knowledge, you don't have that attitude or that personality to be able to really take advantage of that opportunity, then you won't be lucky. And also, you notice how he talked about Stephen Covey and how those concepts, and one other thing that this university and we all talk about is core values. That if you don't have core values that you not only know about, but you put them in writing, so everybody who associates with you, whether they are a client, whether they are an associate, or whether they are just a good relationship, they know what you stand for, who you are, and what you value. Now, if that's not what we teach you here as a business student in multiple disciplines, then we're not teaching you. And Bob, you gave a wonderful explanation of how to take that preparation and opportunity to be one of the luckiest guys I've ever met.
The heart.
Thank you very much.
This was a real treat for the students. We thank you very, very much.
The one other thing I would add, the harder I work, the luckier I get. I would also say I actually feel blessed that I chose this field. That's what my wife keeps reminding me. Don't say lucky, you're blessed. And I actually feel that way. And there's been a lot of great milestones that's been hugely helpful along the way. Oh, by the way, it's our oldest son, Chad.
Hi.
Congratulations.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Chad, Jim Simpson, good to see you. Thank you so much. This was real, students really enjoyed it.